So I'm Roger with Campfire Tales. Today I'd like to share a little story of the most incredible panfish lake I've ever fished in my entire life. You know, the lake is only 15 miles from Seattle. The lake is not more than probably 2-3 acres in size. It's called Panther Lake. It's kind of up on the hill between Renton and Kent. You know, it's a shallow lake. It's full of lily pads, and it's probably not more than about 20 feet deep. And I ran into it, this is probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago, that I accidentally heard about the lake and found that it had a little boat launch near there, and just a car top boat launch. And so I took my canoe over there, and I took I could see fish rising all over the place, and I figured, well, it looks like they're probably perch or bass or something like that, the way that the rises were. So I grabbed my fishing equipment and I rigged up. What I did was I used an old fly rod, and I took the reel off from it, and I just used regular monofilament line, and I tied it to the eyelets, strung it through the end of the pole, and had maybe 15-20 feet of line left over, tied a little rubber jig on the end of it, and would flip this jig. I'd go out in my canoe out into the lily pads, and I'd see a little bit of little waves or something telling me that there's a fish nearby. So I used my fly rod to just kind of flip my bait over the top of the lily pad and let it kind of dangle 3-4 inches below the surface, and kind of jiggle it a little bit to let the lily pad send out little ripples in the water. And all of a sudden I would just get this huge bites from perch that wound up being probably 13 to 15 inches, were most of the normal size. Or I would get crappie that were probably 14 to 17 inches in size. The perch probably averaged close to 2 pounds, 1.5 to 2 pounds. The crappie probably 2.5 pounds on average. And I could go out there for just a couple of hours and come back with 20, 15 or 20 fish that would weigh 30 pounds of fish, and just a short little outing. The lake, this Panther Lake, I think it was connected underground somehow to Lake Meridian, in Kent. But it had a perfect balance whereas fish would get ready to lay their eggs, and the young would hatch. There's so many big fish in this lake that they would eat up all the small fish before they got to be too big and start competing for the food supply. So the lake was in balance to keep the big fish fed, but keep the little fish from taking all the food. So, man, I just had a ball with this thing. I mean, every once in a while I'd flip my jig out, and I wouldn't be paying attention, and the fish would literally yank the pole out of my hand. But since I didn't have a reel on it, it would float. And so they would drag it across the lily pads, and I would chase it down in my canoe and grab the pole, and usually I'd still have the fish on the other end of it and be able to land it. So it was the most fun fishing I've had. And so there were every once in a while I'd get a maybe a 5-pound catfish, or we'd see bass in the lake that were probably 6 to 8 pounds, something like that. There might have been bigger ones. Those are the ones we could see. And I just enjoyed that fishery for probably 3 years. And then all of a sudden, trailer park came in, and this was before they had sewers in the area. And when they came in, they must not have installed the septic system correctly, because all of a sudden there started to be this kind of a slime that would form in the lake, and it just choked the lake out. It would just took the oxygen or something out of the lake. And all of a sudden, after about 2 years, the fish disappeared. You could get, every once in a while you'd see little minnows swimming around, but the big fish were all gone. And it was just, I went back 3 or 4 times to this lake over the years, and they kept it open for a couple of years, and then they even closed the public access to the lake. So I mean, it just my heart just sinks every time I go out there, and it's just a really good lesson on environmental laws and paying attention to lakes, and our waterways in terms of we as people can really screw up nature. So it was a good lesson to me, and I sure miss that lake. We hope that you enjoyed this week's telling of Campfire Tales. Please remember to hit subscribe to make sure that you get the announcements for next week's upcoming activities, as well as the new topics for the Campfire Tales. Please also share the fun that we have here and let your friends know about our website. Check out RogersOutdoorChannel.org for more information and to stay connected. If you like the outdoors, great to enjoy this site.